So today I want to talk about on this episode of Memory Card is I want to talk about Tekken 3. So Tekken 3 was one of these games that one of the first games I had on my PlayStation, and it was a good fun game. I suppose maybe for some people Tekken was kind of the game that their uncle or their dad owned, um, or maybe somebody else in their family owned it who was a bit older than them, and that's how you got to play the games. I think for me, I got it on. I think it was my 12th birthday. I think it was, and it was a bit of a strange thing to have as your first game. It's mostly a multiplayer game, but it was really good fun. It was one of these games where you could invite your friends around. And I remember once I had a few friends over, and we sat and we were playing it. We were still all trying to learn how to win. We were taking it in turns to play, and we got quite far. We were getting through it. We got to Heihachi, and that's kind of when things went wrong. We all started losing. None of us really could beat him. Sometimes we would get close. Sometimes we would just get our faces completely bashed in by him. It was one of these battles that you just think, am I ever going to win this? And then you move on from that to fighting ogre and true ogre. Um, it was one of these fun games that you had, and that if you completed the arcade mode, you unlocked another character, which is good. So sometimes the characters made sense. There was Brian Fury, for example, um, and Julia as well. But there were some that really were a bit of an oddball in this game. There was, although it's meant to be like a martial arts kind of, all these characters have different fighting styles based on different, I think, different world martial arts. Then I think, you had King, who wore this leopard mask, um, who I think was a wrestler. So it was quite weird, and he would roar as well, which is quite strange. It's clearly a guy in a mask, but for some reason he would roar, and it just that was a character you got straight off, and it was a bit of an odd one. Um, but there were some characters you just think, how and why are these in this game? The first of those were Kuma, who was a bear, and Panda, who unimaginatively was a panda. What else are you going to call a panda? But Panda, I suppose. Um, and they walked around, they lumbered around on their hind legs, and they just swiped with their paws. And they had this big kind of crushing bear hug move, and it was really uh, the first of the. This is weird. Why are there these characters in the game? This doesn't really make any sense. Allowing you to. This is a martial arts fighting tournament, Iron Fist, that the game is centered around, and you're allowing a bear and a panda to compete. That's a bit strange. It doesn't really make much sense. Um, the other characters, I suppose, I should have mentioned Yoshimitsu, who was this cyborg, I guess, with a sort of laser samurai sword. And I just think this is a bit of a strange character to include as well. All these other characters are fighting hand to hand and using their fists and their legs and punching, kicking. And here's this guy with a sword. And you're like, okay, why has this guy got a sword? This isn't a bit unfair. Um, but he's there. The other character I remember that was a total, this is just not happening, what the heck is going on, um, was Mokujin. Mokujin was this weird sort of tree log thing with a head made out of another smaller log and some sort of log like arms and legs that mimicked the other characters. Um, it made no sense. It was just one of these. how do you fight this when you don't know what kind of style and what kind of character is going to be mimicking? But at the same time, how do you play as it? Because you yourself as well, you don't know what character it's going to come out as. You don't know if it's going to be your favourite character, you don't know if it's going to be a character you've never played as before, or just a character that was just that you didn't like and you thought was useless. And which I think is it's fine to make it harder for your opponent to be a bit random and to be different. But for the person who's playing as it, it's that's where I think it falls down as a character. Having a character that you just have no idea what it's going to do. Then uh, once you unlock these characters, you go through arcade mode. You think, right, okay, I've beaten arcade mode with all my characters now, my original characters. I've seen the cutscene at the end, the small little cinematic cutscene that you get when you finish. You finish your arcade mode, and I've unlocked all these characters. I've gone through the roster. What else is there to do? Where is? And then there was this rumor going around my school. I remember that someone had locked this character called Doctor Bostanovich, or I think that's how you pronounce it, or some people just call him Doctor B because it was easier to say. Um, like, how do you do this? I've played arcade with all my characters. What's going on? How do you get this guy? This other weird character that you can unlock. Um, and there was another mode on the game called Survival Mode, and that's how you unlocked him, which is a bit of a curveball. Here's a character that you unlock via a different mode to everybody else. And Survival Mode was basically like Streets of Rage, kind of side-scrolling beat 'em up level where you would take on some minions who aren't in the arcade mode. It's almost like a story mode, I suppose, of 3 or 4 levels where you beat up some minions, you reach the end within a certain amount of time, and then you get onto the next level, and they've bumped up your time a bit. So each enemy has its own health bar, from what I can remember, and you could pick up classic fighting side-scrolling game logic. You picked up just bits of chicken. You take out an enemy and they drop chicken because an enemy is carrying fried chicken because I don't know, video game logic, I guess. So you pick that up to regain your health, and eventually at the end of this, you'd fight this guy, and of course, nobody really mentioned what Doctor B looked like and his fighting style. So if anyone's ever played this odd, stupid game that we did in Cubs called Crab Football, where basically you bend your back over and you put your hands on the ground and you turn your hands into legs and you kind of shuffle about like I guess, like a crab, but you could move forward and backwards and sideways, which kind of negated the name Crab Football, I guess. But that's kind of how he moved. He was bent over backwards and he used his hands and his feet to propel himself along. It was a bit of a strange fighting style, but that's how he fought. And also, he was an old man, and this old man who could barely walk. And it was one of these moments where you're thinking, okay, I've gotten a bear. It's just taking the messing and mind numbing nonsense and just take it up a notch. So that was it. You beat him and you got him. That was, you think, it for the characters. I've done my arcade, I've done my survival, I've got these characters. But there was this one other bizarre mode you unlocked. And this just, I don't know where this came from. So you've had there was the modes that made sense to me. I suppose that made sense to most folk who played these games. Um, there's the actual fighting game modes, like arcade, like the survival mode. And then all of a sudden you've got this weird beach volleyball game where there isn't a net, but you play beach volleyball one-on-one, and you have a choice of balls. But you can, to begin with, you play You play against a computer, and there's like 3 games you go through with increasing difficulty. So there's a beach ball, there's another type of ball, slightly heavier than the beach ball, and then there's this massive iron ball. And the idea being that you could beat the ball up, you punched and kicked the ball with your attacks, and you can hit them back at the enemy to immobilize them. But the idea being, I suppose, that if you've ever played volleyball or beach volleyball, is that you hit the ball into the ground on your opponent's side of the net. Like I said, there was no net, so basically you had to be the one that knocked the ball down to win. So it's beach volleyball, but with punches where you punch and kick the ball. You can hit the ball at your opponent, and there was no net. So it was basically a fighting games version of beach volleyball, I guess. Um, so it's one of these things where it's not actual volleyball. It's just a weird sort of mini game. But what made this game even weirder was that if you played through the 3 or 4 matches against the computer, you would come up against in your last of your matches this thing I think called Gon, which was a small baby dinosaur. Um, it was just one of these things thinking, I'm playing a beach volleyball game against a dinosaur, but you beat this. I think it's a dinosaur lizard thing, I guess, whatever it's meant to be. Um, you beat this thing, you unlock it, and you go, okay, I've unlocked this. This makes no sense, but I've unlocked it. And so that actually became your last character. And of course, because folk maybe thought saw this as a fighting game, and that's what it is. It's a fighting game. Why would I play this beach volleyball mode? Is there really a reason for doing it? I'm just going to ignore it. And I'm thinking that's what a lot of my friends and people who played this game maybe did, and didn't realise that you could unlock this character. And so you bring your friends come round, and you go, okay, let's play some Tekken, and you fire it up, and all of a sudden you go, I'm going to play as the wee dinosaur man, and your friends are going, what's this? Who's he? Where did you get him? And you have to tell them that it's you show them the beach volleyball game, and it's one of these things where you're looking at this going, what the heck is this? How is this? What? So yeah, it was one of these weird moments, and I suppose it made even less sense than Dead or Alive beach volleyball, which is from what I've seen screenshots of is actual beach volleyball. Um, but here's not actual volleyball. Um, but yeah, it's one of these ones where you just go, this game is just weird. Okay, I guess it makes no sense. It's a fighting game. It's not meant to make sense. The weirdest thing, I suppose, back in the day was Blanca on Street Fighter. That was the most obscure out there character. Um, I suppose the one other thing that this game had over Street Fighter was that it had more female characters. Um, Although one, I suppose, it looked a little bit like Chun Li, um, in kind of costume and design and maybe fighting style as well. So it was basically here's a kind of rip off of Chun Li. Um, Ling Xiaoyu, I think her name was. But other than that, it was one of these games where you played it and it was really good fun. Aside from the total nonsense and weird characters. So if you think of you ever played this game, if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. And if you ever play any of the other games, I might go on. I might talk a bit about the other games that I've played. But that's all from my memories of Tekken 3.